According to a recent Forbes article, the marketing trends for 2024 focused on AI and sustainability. To dive into this today, I'm very excited to have with me Olumide and Miguel. Olumide, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your experience?
Thank you very much for having me on this call. I think my experience cuts across what I call the four marketing highway, from brand building, brand strategy development, customer development, and field sales management. My background is in marketing. I've been in marketing for the last 15 years, and I worked across multiple markets across sub-Saharan Africa. I've lived in about four of these markets: Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, and Ethiopia. Currently, I'm leading marketing for Logitech across West Africa, trying to help localize the global marketing strategies for Logitech to become market leader in this market.
Rebecca, thanks for the invite, first of all. So my background is in marketing as well. I studied marketing management, both bachelor's and master's in the same university. Actually, the same university where later I studied lecturing, which is one of my passions, also in marketing. And I joined Procter & Gamble in 2021 as a Tampax brand manager. I stayed there for about a year and a half before I joined Ferry as a senior brand manager. And before this, I did consulting as well with small firms in Portugal, some in India as well, in marketing. So overall, just a marketing management experience, and brand being one of my passions, particularly when it comes to anything related to content creation, brand strategy, all of that.
Olumide, if I can drive the first one to you. So we know that AI is becoming really significant. Everyone's talking about it. It's all we ever hear about at the moment. How do you see AI impacting the creative processes in your company? And are there specific initiatives to integrate that into developing brand voices and styles?
Well, when you start, I think when you look everywhere, you find someone who's an AI consultant, and they're teaching you about how to write prompts, and talking about AI and all of that. All the data that I've seen and all the research, is really pointing towards this. If you look at about a year and some months, the hype level is still very high. So I think the first instance of ChatGPT was somewhere around November 2022. So yeah, the hype level is high, but the actual experimentation on the business side is still relatively low. In other words, what do you mean? Everybody's talking about it, but there are really a few companies that are actually using AI-oriented tools, for their creative process or, the marketing process. So companies are like, hey, let's play around some of these tools and language models and let's see, what's happening. But in so many cases, what we're finding is there's still a lot of fear, uncertainty, ChatGPT in the risks in the area of the legality of generative AI and what it's going to bring. So a lot of doubt is actually coming from issues that have been yet to be settled, such as legality and copyright. The ownership of the contents that you create with ChatGPT. So the biggest problem that I have personally seen, in the experimentation so far, especially from a creative side, is nobody knows the outcome. Nobody really knows what they're doing. So in other words, at the moment, am I going to fire a brand manager or a creative writer and replace with ChatGPT, or a writer is going to be more, 30% more effective, or our brand manager is going to be more effective? Nobody knows, because no documented process on the outcome you expect generative AI, or you don't know what can be improved with the insertion of generative AI in whatever you do. So all we know, yes, is at the moment I can do stuff better with ChatGPT, but I really don't know what I'm getting myself into. AI is a very powerful tool. Add more work and complexities. It's still going to take a lot of time for people to learn how to use ChatGPT and all of this to be able to get the best output from that. Yeah, ChatGPT, generative AI can help marketers come up with very great ideas, of course, but will it really replace the work? I mean, it's something that we're still trying to see what will happen in the next couple of days. What you find is on an ongoing basis, there are real advances in what what you can derive as a creative from generative.
First, I would second everything that Olumide said, and I'm glad to know that a marketing director wouldn't fire brand management. It would be amazing with a. I am not probably not using it as much as probably other people do. The only thing I would add to that would be we're still trying to figure out within all of the things that we need to worry about, all of the issues that we currently have, all of the things that we need to tackle, and I'm particularly talking about. I mean, in the past 2-3 years, what happened with us having to either price or downsize or seeing a lot of shoppers going to private label, that raised a lot of issues where we're really trying to nail that right message to bring people to our brands, to bring people back. And when we look at AI, we already see ways where we integrate this in our approach. One of them would be how we use AI to improve creative. So what kind of benefits, what kind of images, what kind of colors, what kind of claims actually help better and resonate better with any specific type of audience, particularly price sensitive or value centric type of shopper. So it definitely helps. Another way that we try to look at, and actually something that probably we don't use as much from comparing to the creative part, is how can this help with data analysis. We obviously use a lot of household panels. We use particularly qualitative data. So AI does help somewhat with that, but in terms of the actual adoption of usage that I see within this tool, it's really mostly from a creative perspective. In terms of, more individually, what open source AI kind of helped with, and the reason why a lot of people are amazed at that, it brought something that we all wanted, which is our own personal assistant. Whether it is I'm writing an article and I need help to understand if I'm writing the right words because I'm not native, or I need them to summarize a set of articles that probably would take time. But at the same time, the bad part of that, and particularly when I look at this for lectures, or when I try to summarize learnings from articles, what I see is a summary that is very top line, not with the detail that probably I would want with an actual personal assistant that would help with that. So again, I'd second everything that Olumide said, and I really think it's a matter of where does this fit within all of the things that I need to solve.
I think, like, I'm a content manager, so I'm a writer at heart, and the places where it's helped me is largely briefs, because I don't have time to that I need to at the scale that I need to. So I brief copywriters to then do the work that I then edit, and where I can use AI is to help me with the structure of a brief, but it's never deep enough. So to your point, Miguel, it's never enough. It gives me a nice skeleton, which saves me, to be fair, an hour or so, which is great. So I am more efficient. But when it comes to kind of the knowledge and the research, it doesn't hit the mark. And then I can't then pass that on because they won't know what I need from them. So it does speed things up, but it doesn't add anything additional in my experience as of yet. My next question is about environmental responsibility. Miguel, for you, please. So how does your company balance that with cost effectiveness in its marketing and product strategies? And are you currently using AI, to your knowledge, to kind of get that balance right for environmental responsibility?
So sustainability is one of the things that we're always very careful. And the reason being, we want to make sure we deliver the best and the product that delivers the most important or the prototypical benefit of the category we work on. So whether it was on tampons, making sure that they are as comfortable as they can be, and they protect as much as they can be, particularly in a category that has such a high risk and is such a personal category, where obviously what people prefer, regardless of the material, is really they want it to be comfortable and they want it to protect. Or the same thing in dish, in fairy, where we want to make sure that it cleans as well as possible. And what we're finding with this is we're trying really to go for the not just getting the short wins, but actually seeing what will affect on the long run the most. So if you think, for example, in dish, the 90% of the pollution in washing up liquid has to do with usage, particularly using hot water. So one of the things we focus on is, for example, communicating that you can use, for example, Max Power, which if you haven't, please do. You can use that type of product, and you can even use it in cold water. That massively helps with changing a behavior which is ingrained in people, which is they think you need hot water to actually get through that grease when you actually don't. The reason why you think you do is because naturally you shouldn't keep up with the technology of these products throughout time, but actually very likely you would have used other products that don't have that benefit or that innovation that leads to the formulas that we have now. So we do tackle this with better products, innovation, and I do think that this conversation of sustainability has to be part of a greater conversation of innovation. So you also see in the market other types of innovation where probably would be, I don't know, I'm thinking of a few cases of smaller brands where we see them using sustainability also as a way to be different. But when you look at the numbers, particularly in mass markets, you see that it doesn't move the needle as much as it would with things like better prices or anything else. So the way we look at it is mostly from a perspective of, is the product innovative enough and does it still deliver on the benefit? And obviously that will then bring a conversation of being cost effective. But what you'll see is that a lot of these products have a higher margin, or they tend to cost a bit more, particularly because of the innovation that they bring. It's then a matter of patternizing or establishing bigger patterns of these usages so that it then helps us with having less cost to produce this in mass. So that's overall the approach.
I think Logitech is also very big on sustainability. And we have a roadmap to sustainability that we're following. I think as of 2021, we already achieved carbon neutrality as a business. And I think that the next focus or the next target is climate positivity and, net zero. So I think at the moment, Logitech is continuing to work with, all of the supply chain partners to ensure that, we reduce carbon emission by more than 90%, by 2030. If you look at the moment, if you look at packaging, end of life products, so we used to use capsules. I'm trying to remember the name. We use that for packaging, but we moved all of that to paper and box packaging because of their biodegradability. On the product side, if you look at some of the materials that we use, we basically use a lot of recycled plastic in coming up with some of the new products. So if you look at, take for instance, this is a mouse. Most of the materials around this mouse, it's almost 100% biodegradable. And when the mouse is no longer in use, rather than go into landfill, they go into the process of actual remanufacturing. So that's one of those things that Logitech is doing, addressing residual wastages, bringing them back in manufacturing ecosystem, reducing emissions, and this has also been some of the ways in which we drive, some of this now are infused into the marketing campaigns, as some of the key reasons to believe, especially for people who are environmental sustainability advocates. One of the key selling points will be 100% biodegradable, 100% recycled. And, we're not just the only company that does that. A lot of the other companies, some of the big tech giants now do that, where when a product is at the end of the life cycle, rather than, throwing them into landfills, they encourage you to have them returned, to the nearest company or to the nearest office, where some of these things are then recoupled, reassembled, and used as parts or as part of the manufacturing process. So this is how we're reducing our carbon footprint, and at the same time working to drive sustainable production and adding value to the ecosystem or the environment in which we live in.
There was some research done recently on UK consumer. 45% of UK Gen Z consumers will stop buying their favorite brand if it isn't sustainable. So it's having obviously a massive impact on the whole buyer journey and the whole consumer purchase point, because you don't want to drive your branding in one direction and actually they find out that you're just greenwashing, or you're only doing it for Earth Day, one day a year, and the rest of the year you're not actually contributing, because it will start to impact companies' bottom lines. I'm sure. I mean, with this data, it must be starting to impact bottom lines already. And it's just interesting how much that has changed
Yes, and
because it hasn't been that long, has
and
it?
interestingly, in some instances, sustainability is even a lot more cheaper than some of this than for a lot of the businesses because reducing the amount of materials that go into packaging, reducing plastic. And the way the products are being built is such that you're reducing plastic and all of that. It basically brings down some of the margin and it drives profitability. So while still doing good, most of the businesses are making a lot of profit.
Do we think that AI will have more of a role in sustainability as we move forward? Like, do we think that it will be part of the innovation to try and solve some of these problems or try and find, especially I think in supply chain, to kind of identify where routes could maybe be shorter to reduce carbon emissions?
Well, so one of the beauties of AI is its ability to work with large amount of data, process a large amount of data that the ordinary human cannot. With its ability to grasp consumer data, manufacturing data, and spot trends, it will be able to deliver practically tailor-made supply chain solutions that can help improve. So, of course, I'm not on the supply chain side, but I think its applicability cuts across every field because most of the innovation comes from your ability to be able to look at data, dissect it, and look at, what are we going to do differently? And I already see that already happening in supply chain, and I think it will continue to happen, as we go ahead.
No, I think the same. Even though not being in a lot of those processes with the product supply or supply chain, um, a lot of the things that I sometimes hear the team either complaining about or maybe looking for a solution on some. The way that we talk about AI and what it could do in particular, based on what Olumide was saying, is it can help a lot with the processes, figuring out ways of doing things faster, better, whether it is on optimizing how we use the trucks and helping with transportation, or even in the sampling programs that we tend to do. We need someone like me, for example, trying to manage a lot of the things and a lot of the processes that we have within sampling, having help of a tool that would improving whether it is the timings of the process or having less trucks, that would be very, very useful. And I really think even in terms of the way that we then utilize data to then either send the samples or making sure that we have trial programs that people actually use. I do think it would help a lot in that. I don't see it being something that we can already implement from this year onwards, but definitely that would be something that could help us with those processes.
I think, all interesting points, but I think going back to the original point I think Olumide made about trust and fear, there's a big part of AI that needs to work for the human in order to gain that trust. In 2024, there's a predicted shift towards more inclusive and authentic brand representation, which touches on the trust that we just spoke about. So how do you address the shift in your work, and what challenges do you encounter and are you encountering?
So one of the things that, one of the original fallacies, about marketing then was, the one size fits all approach. So a lot longer, than now, you'll find that, especially in Africa, one ad for Africa will be used, for most of the countries because everybody is, brown skinned. But you find that there are different nuances between and consumer archetypes, even in Europe, where you have different ethnicities. What I've noticed is, right now in Africa is there's the rise of the Afro consumerism. So the African consumers are they're becoming more aware of their identity, and even within Africa, there's also a breakdown. Even for instance, I'm based in Nigeria, and there's what we call the Niger centricity. So which means that a Nigerian consumer will tell you that he's different from a Ghanaian consumer. Of course, on the outside we look like one, but we're essentially different, and we're very different. So the Western Africa or the Western hemisphere in Africa is different from the Eastern, the Southern, and
100%.
and the northern hemisphere. So it's no longer a place where we are now homogeneous. And that way, a brand now has to be able to speak and connect with the consumer on a very individualistic levels, which means, understanding the hearts and minds of the consumer that you're dealing with. And that's, it's not, yeah, of course, AI can help in certain ways, but a lot of that information will be gleaned from directly interacting, with the consumers, understanding their hearts and mind, understanding the habits and attitudes and the triggers, that really drives this consumers. And so in that aspect, traditional marketing hasn't really changed. Of course, you find that there's a lot of leaning towards more digital multi-channel marketing, but you still find that the core traditional marketing cannot be where you derive some of the insights cannot be changed or cannot be exchanged for, I would say, the fancy kind of marketing. This is how we've been addressing the shift. We've been addressing the shift by, listening to the consumers more often than not, engaging and interacting with the consumers and the customers on an ongoing basis. So having focus group discussions, having market visits, having retail audits, and all of those very quantitative and qualitative interactions with the customer to understand the trends. I mean, that's you. It's from the interaction with the customers and the consumers that you can understand beyond what they are saying. What are they really saying? So let me just use the word. I mean, the fancy word that we always throw around, customer centricity. So that has to be at the core, and that has been at the core for a long time, and that also has to remain at the core. The only advancement right now is there are tools and processes to simplify customer centricity, but it's still the same way it's always been over the years.
I mean, it's interesting, and I'm sure, Miguel, you can speak to this, like the different consumers. Obviously, Olumide has this range of African consumers, which are so different, like from areas of the continent. There is such a differentiation, and I'm sure, Miguel, that you find quite often, because you market largely to people in their homes, that there's going to be a wide range of brand representation that you have to hit at different levels.
Yeah, especially in a country like the UK and in Ireland, where you have such a multicultural society, particularly when you look at London. So one of the things that Olumide said very well, it's what we can do with particularly digital, or I'm thinking particularly paid ads, influencers that can help us achieve the representation where we do different types of content, and nowadays we do need to create a lot of different content. So one of the ways that we kind of implemented this, and it was such a rich experience. First of all, we started creating a lot more content, still content that everyone would see. So this is not necessarily just looking at different places of the UK and just targeting those places. No, what we're actually doing is we're trying to look at the different type of communities that we have. We create content with them, and then we just push it across the UK. And one of the things that we did was we started doing a lot more content and a lot more open briefs. So we make sure that the benefit is there. We make sure that the main message is there, but we work with people from completely different backgrounds, but all from London, all from the UK, all from Dublin and Ireland. And I've seen amazing types of content, because you find different types of humor, which I tend to like most of them. You would find different approaches, different languages, different accents. And one of the things that I've even been told, particularly from some people from the Irish team, was I love that now I'm seeing someone with that tough Irish accent making an influencer ad for Fairy, and that's amazing. Particularly because then I see the results of it, and we have amazing results, particularly with really creative people. And then people find it interesting to see these things, because it's the real world, the real accents that they hear, the real people that they see in the streets, in their houses. So that's the way that we try to do it, at least the one that I've been closer to. And then the only other one that I would say is I've seen even in the building as well, great work from Pantene, for example, where it's different types of hair that demand a different type of product. And I really like their work as well. And I see them being more inclusive, even if you look at in a different way. If you at their main influencer, it's someone that's blind, and they talk about the importance of also touching the hair and all of that. So keeping the benefit in the center, but being having a big representation as inclusive as possible.
I think, obviously, having heard from both of you and your different experiences, the most important thing that I keep coming up with is that the human remains at the center. And I think it's remarkable that regardless of the evolutions and the changes and the technology, and that hasn't changed, the human continues to remain the most important focus point. The customer, the consumer, their lives, their experiences. And it's now about finding a way to build AI into a world that keeps that ethos where the human remains the center, be it sustainability, be it ChatGPT, or, you know, how we develop things, how we evolve as a species. It's clear that people are the focus and should remain the focus. And I find that in marketing, that's where people go wrong, is that it's the blanket approach. You just go, oh, there's a bunch of people that I want to sell to here, and just do the same thing. And this has been something that's been clear for ages, but it's becoming clearer and clearer. The foggier AI makes content, it's becoming clearer that the authenticity is so crucial. How would you summarize kind of the trends and what you think is going to go on this year?
You're absolutely right. And you can see that in results. You see how influencer content, for example, tends to perform a lot better in the right platforms than branded content do. So the way I would summarize it is just people can smell bullshit a mile away. So it's really, how do we use AI to get rid of that bullshit? And this means empowering and helping with what we were saying, which is keeping people and authenticity in the center. There really is a focus of what we're doing, and we see the results of that. So it's more of a, how can it help us with making the process not just faster, but better, to help us in that mission rather than making it foggy. So authenticity would be in the center. That's how I would summarize.
Yes, there's the hype around artificial intelligence and all of that. We should not be over reliant, on AI as marketers. I mean, it's a very powerful tool, but it doesn't have all the answers. Rely solely on AI, I think it's one of the missteps that will probably be happening. It can affect our judgment, as marketers. So it's a mix of conventional marketing tools as well as an integration with AI to be able to get the best out of all of these. Yeah. AI is very important. AI is very large. AI is very vast. And within marketing, there's also specialization. So being able to work with what you can to be able to get the best results is very, very important. And then talking about the customer, the consumer spectrum, it's not a one size fits all. So we have to be very adept in our approach to be able to reach the customers and the consumers. All right, and then more importantly, what I would say is in the use of AI, I think testing is very important. I don't know if there's been a lot of tests in some of the tools that we use. They're not really originally designed by marketeers. They are designed by technology enthusiasts. So I think right now it's really important that we get marketeers in the room to somewhat test all of this and give us a documentation on what are we really going to expect, with the usage of these tools, like some of the research tools that we use in core everyday marketing.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. The insights have been great. It's been really interesting hearing kind of across both of your experience and your expertise. And it's also very reassuring to hear that we're all pulling in the same direction at the end of the day. That, yes, we're going to use AI, but we are going to keep focusing on people across the band. So that's great. But thank you so much for joining me and for your insights, and have a lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.